Hello, my friends. Luiz Lima here in Orlando, Florida today, hosting Spiritism, a closer look right here on Kardec Radio. Once again, we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And in this program, we're going to take a closer look at human imperfections. We have a lot of imperfections, right? So human imperfections is our topic for this for today. I'm going to start by saying that life is this journey of moral and spiritual evolution. And by the way, Spiritism is very clear in its purpose and what it teaches. So as Spiritists, we know that this is the goal. It's to get to perfection through a journey of moral and spiritual improvement. And that's what we are all doing here in this planet. However, we are not finished yet. We are not perfect beings, not yet. So we are not these finished beings, but we are rather, I would say, immortal spirits in development. All of us, regardless of our level of evolution, morality, intelligence, it doesn't matter. We are all in development. And if we are in development, there will be imperfections along the way. It's very natural. That's how we learn things. Even in school, that's how we learn from our mistakes many times. So imperfection, or the human imperfections, we cannot consider this to be a failure. It's not a failure. It's simply part of the current stage that we are in this journey. If we start seeing it, and that's what we are going to discuss in the program, by the way, if we kind of get stuck in the idea that I'm imperfect, I'm a failure, that's not good. So we are going to talk about this a little bit. We need to get away from this idea of, I'm not good, this is not nice. We can't do that. We have to, think differently than that. So turning from, or coming from imperfection to perfection is a journey. So turning from imperfect to perfect spirits is a long process with no shortcuts. It is going to take a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and there are no shortcuts. It's going to take us a lot of reincarnations to get it done, a lot of lives. If we look back the other way around, instead of looking ahead, if we look back, we can see where we came from and where we are today. We are much better than we were, just imagine 10 lives ago, 10 reincarnations ago. So the idea of this immediate perfection, tomorrow morning, I'm going to be perfect, next week, this is an illusion. It won't happen. It's not the way things work. It's a process. It's a long process. Again, no shortcuts. And that illusion can lead to wrong expectations. If we think we're going to be perfect just like that, snap of fingers, we're going to produce and generate wrong expectations for ourselves. For example, think about this: patience without ever feeling irritation. You have to go through irritation several times, over and over again, to the point that you say, well, I'm feeling this because I need to be a little more patient. Then you start from there. You build up to get to patience from being or feeling irritation all the time. Again, another thing, faith without moments of fear. When you don't yet have our faith solid, well set in our within, we will face fear. We will go through many, 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 many moments of fear that will trigger us or give us the opportunity, if we understand it, to build up and have a solid faith ahead. Another one, peace without inner struggle. We get peace by suffering so many times. This inner struggle, all this turmoil inside. At one point you said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want peace. Then we start building up peace. Another thing, charity without inner resistance. In principle, charity is something that we don't do in an automated basis. We have to think about it. There's a resistance there. Many times the simplest types of charity, which is the material charity. Sometimes we struggle. Should I do this to that person? I don't know that person. Should I give him this? Should I give that person some money? You see, we're kind of evaluating. It's like we're putting a strategy together on how to react to that possibility of doing some charity, material charity in this case. So there's a struggle, there's inner resistance, which is natural to all of us spirits that are still, at lower levels of morality. Those are the spirits right here on earth. So, as a consequence of our wrong expectations that we set ourselves, right? We create situations of discomfort for ourselves. So, as a consequence of these wrong expectations, we take some attitudes that we shouldn't. We should avoid things such as, for example, we judge ourselves harshly because we want to be perfect tomorrow morning. So sometimes we do something and we recognize a mistake right there, and we get angry and disappointed, and we just want to, disappear for a few hours, for a day, for 3 days, for a month, whatever it is. You see, we're judging ourselves harshly. It is part of the journey. It's not something extraordinary. No, imperfection is part of it. Another thing, as a consequence of these wrong expectations that we set, we feel discouraged. We want to abandon things. That's it. I can't do this anymore. I'm no good. I'm never going to be able to. I'm going to fail all the time. That kind of thing. We feel discouraged. Shouldn't be. Mistakes and imperfections should be a warning sign, an alert that I need to be better, not to give up. It's the other way around. Another consequence of setting the wrong expectations, we believe that we are failing spiritually. It's not that we are failing spiritually. We're going through a process. In that process, we are on a stage that fails, and imperfections will be part of it. Not only you and me, but all of us. We are all going through the process at different levels, different stages, but we all go through it. So what is Spiritist's perspective on imperfection? Spiritist invites us to a different posture. For example, recognize imperfections with clarity. Okay, I'm imperfect, I did this thing wrong, and I've been doing it wrong all the time. It's very hard to do it differently, but what exactly triggers me to do it? You see, that kind of clarity. We don't have to publish this anywhere. It's an internal work. It's me and myself, you and yourself. Recognize these imperfections. Spiritism invites us to work on them with perseverance. Just let's commit to this and let's get let's get to work on this thing. Spiritism teaches us a different posture in the sense to avoid denial and avoid self-condemnation. You see, those are the two extremes. On one end, you have denial. I don't have any imperfections at all. If you tell me I do, you're wrong. That's one end of the story. The other side, the other end, is self-condemnation. I'm not even going to try to do this because I'm going to fail. Why? We have to try. At one point, we're going to get it right. We improve by trying. So these are the two extremes, right? So to avoid denial on one end and to avoid self-condemnation on the other. Now, there's a distinction here, which is resignation versus courage. Resignation, it's something like this. I am like this, I'm not going to change, nothing will change. No, that's not what Spiritism teaches. It teaches courage, which is more or less something like this. I see what needs to be transformed. I see what needs transformation. And I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying to do it. In the beginning, it's a little more difficult. Then I get used to it. Then it gets simply automated in my perispirit. And then it's easy to do. So courage is this active, dynamic force that will make us try and keep trying. So when you talk about spiritual growth, the true spiritual growth requires moral courage. So we can, let's do it. Let's just get it done. Now, to be imperfect with courage means to, for example, to admit when we are wrong. Oh, I did this thing, wrong move, shouldn't do it. To be imperfect with courage could be, for example, starting over after a failure. So we know we failed, we did something wrong or something incorrect. Let's do it again. That's how we get better, by doing over again and doing better each time. To be imperfect with courage could mean to accept that spiritual growth is gradual. It's a long process. No snap of fingers and I'm all set tomorrow morning. There is no such a thing. Which obviously brings the next thing, which is we need to let go the need for instant transformation. I cannot think rationally that tomorrow morning, or let's just say next month, I'm going to be as perfect as Jesus. That's not reasonable. It's not reasonable. So, if we attach ourselves to the need of instant transformation, not only we're going to be, failing all the time on our own terms, but we're going to be deceiving ourselves. At one point, we're going to give up. Progress, when we talk about moral progress, better morality, and so there's several things in it. We improve in one area, but we struggle on another. Let's say, for example, envy. We improve on that, but tolerance is still a struggle. Or we improve in patience, but, slander is still a problem. So we improve in one area. And for the great majority of us, one at a time and slowly, we overcome one flaw here and we just uncover a deeper one over here. And that's how it goes. We need to uncover all these flaws because that's how we're going to improve, by working on them. So the progress that we refer to here, the moral progress, is not a package deal. If I improve on tolerance, everything else improves at the same rate, at the same time. No. This is not a package deal. We believe we have learned a certain lesson, for example, based on a certain mistake or certain imperfection or failure. So we believe, okay, this time I did learn the lesson. And then life is going to test us again. It could be a test tomorrow, next week, next reincarnation. We're going to be tested again until we get to a point where we no longer need to be tested on that particular situation. You see, in being tested again and again and again, over and over again, this is not, by any means, not at all, regression. It's deeper learning. We don't go back. We don't unlearn. We do not unlearn things. It's like reading. Once you learn how to read and you read something, you cannot unread. Not possible. So we are here on this planet, said to be a planet of trials and expiations. Because that's what spirits, at the level that we are in terms of morality and development, that's the place that is fit for us. From the Spiritist view, trials are not punishments. We do not see trials as punishments. It's not, you're having this because you did that, and it's a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's a second opportunity. It's a second chance. It's a third chance, as many as you need. It's the mercy of God. It will give us as many opportunities as we need to overcome, intolerance, impatience, and all of those things. So these trials are tools for spiritual education. They will make us be better, provided that we understand it this way. And to understand it this way, two things here. First, knowledge, study. Second, free will. I can, understand, but decide not to. Often, very often, by the way, our imperfections are revealed through relationships. That's why we cannot, it doesn't make sense for us to live in a desert island. It's by having relationships, different types of relationships, different levels, social life. That's how we detect, I'm going to use this word, detect our own imperfections. So, for example, we discover that we are, let's just say, impatient when I'm contradicted several times over. At one point I said, I can't do this anymore. So there's a red flag right there. Patience is something that I have to work on. We can discover pride when we feel offended several times over. We can, for example, sometimes we do not do acts of charity because it is a sacrifice. Would you take the sacrifice that, for example, Mother Teresa took to provide charity? Or is it too much for you and me? If we think the sacrifice is too much, we're limiting our scope of charity. We need to improve. That's an imperfection. We will improve, but not being able to do charity because it's a lot of sacrifice, that's another red flag. So all these situations through relationships with different people, that's what's going to help us to perform our inventory of imperfections. Once I have my inventory of imperfections, then I can start working on them. And very often what happens is when we discarnate, we look into that inventory and says, for my next life, I'm going to work on items this, this, and that. Now, like I said before, most of us, because of the stage that we are, imperfection leads to discouragement. It should never. It should lead us to humility. When I say to myself, oh my God, I'm whatever, intolerant. So let's be, humble a little bit, humility a little bit. I need to work on this thing. Instead of just saying, everyone that brings up this intolerance from within, it's their fault. It's nobody's fault. We are responsible, fully responsible for what we do, for our acts. We are fully responsible for what we already did. Now, true humility is not necessarily thinking less of ourselves. It's not, seeing ourselves as non-important. No, it's not that. It's a change of heart. It's a change of vision. We need to be, we ourselves, each one of us, we need to be clear on what humility is. Because humility, when it's clear, it brings freedom. If I have an imperfection and I'm not humble, or humility is not there, what happens? I'm going to sustain that imperfection over time. It's going to be a problem because that's the hard part. Sustain the idea of keep doing the same imperfection, keep repeating. That's a hard part. The easy part is to let it go. So let go. Humility and say, oh, I need to work on this. How can I work on this? Well, let's look for, and this is the key, let's look for relationships with other people. We're not talking romantic relationships, relationships in general, for people, with people who can help me overcome certain things. For example, let's say that every time Joe gets close to you, you become really impatient. Sometimes we cannot even explain why, but let's just say that's the case. So Joe gets close to me and I go completely impatient. I can't take him. I want to go away. I want to leave the location. So when I'm humble enough to say, this is a problem, I need to work on this. Who am I going to look for? Joe. The more I try to escape from Joe's presence around me, the worse it gets. I need to look for the battlefield so I can win the war against intolerance, impatience, and all of it. Where is the battlefield? It's the person that makes me feel it, that wrongly we call enemies. The enemy is not the enemy. The enemy is hatred. The enemy is impatience. The hatred is, envy. How do I win that war? I need to go to the battlefield. How do I win the war over envy? I need to be close to somebody who has things that I don't have and I envy that person. Because there's going to be a turning point where the possessions, whatever it is that person has, no longer put me in this internal turmoil. Now, if I avoid being around that person or people like that all the time, I'm not working on it. I won't get better. When we accept our struggles, things change. Things change. First, we judge others less. it matters less to us to be judging others. We understand more. We see life more clearly. We can practice compassion at a deeper level. For most of us, if we consider somebody to be the enemy, which they are not, but let's just consider that person is the enemy, it's very unlikely, for as long as I think that person is the enemy, that I'm going to practice some kind of compassion towards that person, let alone deeper compassion, that the person might be needing help and support. I'm not going to be there for that person. Right? So Spiritism teaches that charity is not only material, it's also moral, patience with others' limitations. We want them to have patience with us when our limitations. Charity is understanding their struggles because I want people to understand mine. Charity is respect for the time that they need to grow, just like I need that time. So all these things, all these things shape our future, shapes who we are and what we want to do with our moment. Do I want to repeat this moment that I am impatient, that I am, envious all the way around me all the time? Do I want to repeat this many times over? Maybe not, right? Maybe I have to reflect. I have to take a moment to reflect inwardly. We can ask ourselves, what imperfection am I avoiding acknowledging? We can ask ourselves, in what area do I need more patience with myself? And it goes on and on and on. So, to sum up, spiritual maturity is what we want to acquire, be more spiritually mature. That's how we grow. That's how we get better. But you see, even though we can be more mature, but it doesn't mean that there's absence of struggle. The struggles are different. They're still there until we get to perfection. So, for example, struggling with awareness. I can struggle, but be fully aware of why I'm going through that, instead of just, revolt. I can grow, or I should grow with faith, looking ahead, trusting divine mercy. Being imperfect is human. To recognize imperfection is awakening. And to work on imperfection is the true progress. So that's the some points of reflection that I wanted to bring on this program. We all have to work on our things. It's personal, not transferable. Each one has to do their own job, starting with an inventory of imperfections. There are many. Some are maybe easier for us to address on this particular life than others, but we will get the opportunity to address all of them, and we will overcome all of them, because that's our destination, that's our goal, to be perfect beings. Thanks so much for being with us on this program. Once again, Kardec Radio and Spiritism, A Closer Look, are going to be back here on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much. Be well.